Okay, 749 to 773.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, 772 to 799. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next. 801 to 823. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, 824 to 843. Okay. Okay, 845 to 867. Okay. Yeah, up to 876. Okay, students.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm closing this there. Okay, so how far are you in your presentation, preparation of presentation? Are you ready for next week?
So he's preparing. Yes.
Preparing. Okay, so if I see the calendar, so we are getting 12th, 19th, 26th, and 2nd of June. 2nd of June, forget it, because that would be your, the next would be your MSEM exam. So ideally, we have 3 more classes, 12th, 19th, and 26th. Okay, but in between, we may get one more class in terms of Saturday, but I don't see that is going to happen before 29, because this week would be Monday timetable. Next week is the second Saturday, so no Saturday timetable. Then 22nd would be Tuesday, 29th would be Wednesday, and maybe the 5th of June would be the Thursday timetable, but that would be too late. Okay, so I would suggest that we should start our presentation from next week onwards. What do you think?
The 19 and 26.
The thing is that how many groups? Badranil? Badranil, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So how many groups we have? Sorry, Samudranil. Sorry again.
Last I checked, it was somewhere around 19 to 18 groups, sir.
19 to 18.
Sorry,
So
not 19, sir. Sir, let me check once, okay?
okay. So all the students have given you the consent for which group they belong to,
Yes,
or
yes,
they
yes.
want to
All
be
the students
part
have
of.
given the consent, sir.
How many students they haven't given?
Sir, everyone has given, sir. 92
Okay,
students, right?
good.
Everyone has given.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so 19 or 20 groups. Samudranil?
Sir, checking, sir. 1 minute.
Okay.
Sir, just please inform once again, sir, how many means that how much time we have got to explain the PPT and how much slide it should be
Yes,
contain.
yes. I'm coming to the point, although I have discussed that at the beginning of the session, but since we are going to start it, so I'll
There are
just
15 groups, so 15, 15.
15. Okay. And each group have roughly in the range of like 5 to 6.
Each group has roughly in the range of around 5 to 6, but 3 groups have 7 people.
7. Okay. Okay. So since we have 15 groups, so if we start on 19th, okay, so 2 hours, then 26 2 hours, 4 groups, 4 hours. 4 hours, if you divide that in 15 groups, Samudranil, it's 15, yeah?
Yes, sir.
So 15 would be how minutes? How much time would be?
60 minutes.
6, how much?
2 periods, sir.
It will hardly require two classes.
2 classes.
Yes, sir.
So let's say if we take like 10 minutes for each group, okay, so 150 minutes. So okay, so two period would be enough to cover.
Yes, sir. You told 10 minutes for each.
Yeah,
For
10
each
minutes
group.
for each. Okay, so but those who are in this the 7 members group, so they will take more time because 2 minutes is mandatory for all the members. So those 2 groups should take around 14 to 15 minutes. Okay. So the rest of the 5 member groups, so 6 member groups, so that they will take something like 10 to 12 minutes. So the time wise, we are flexible for 1 or 2 minutes, not more than that. Okay. Now remember, so when I assign time for each group, let's say it's a 5 member group, so 10 minutes means we will stick to 10 minutes. So you have to practice in that way so that you should finish in 10. Okay, clear?
Yes, sir.
1
clear.
or 2 minutes I can accept, but nothing more than that. However, it would be like your content or something, or you want to show. You have to concise it, you have to confine it within 10 to 12 minutes maximum. Because this is also a important part of your presentation, because how you manage your time. Normally in conferences, okay, so you're assigned some time and you have to stick to that time. If you cross that, nobody is going to happy with that situation, because the organizer, they want to finish it within the time. So this is just a practice for you also. So how to manage that time. Okay, if you are assigned some work, so you have to finish that within that period. So please practice among yourself so that the content that all the students are presenting, so they should finish it ideally in 2 minutes or maybe 10, 15 seconds or 20 seconds. Not sorry, couple of half a minute is acceptable. Even still half a minute is more, but you try to finish that, because once you are late, then your partner of that group would be late. Again, the overall presentation would be end up in more than 10, 12 minutes. So that is not an ideal situation. Okay. So remember, first thing. Second thing, as I told you, the content, because the evaluation is divided into 3 parts. First, the content. For content, you will get the same marks. Okay, so that would be for 7 out of 7. Okay. Second is the overall presentation quality. Okay, the PPT itself, the the coordination between the slides and uniform or not, text size, everything. If you are putting some pictures, the pictures are clear enough. Okay, so if there is some text, that should be readable. Okay, presentation means when you are presenting, so text should be readable. Try to minimize the number of text, or it's not ideal for text in a PPT. Okay, so try to minimize the text. Use some keywords, okay, or explain it through your presentation. Okay, so use some keywords, then explain it. Okay, because if you put all the text and read it, that is not presentation. Okay, for teaching purpose, that's fine, because you have to deliver that, so that is fine. But for presentation, So that should be minimum text. That should be keywords, and you should explain those things. And switching on your video is mandatory during the presentation time. Clear? Third point, your individual presentation, because that would be the deciding factor between the members of the group. Okay. So that will decide how much mark you should get within the group. Two component is constant. One is the content quality. The second is the overall presentation, the slides. Okay. So that will contribute like 14 marks. 6 marks is the individual presentation. Clear?
Clear, sir.
So, okay. Any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay. Right after the presentation, so I'll provide you the link. So you have to upload that in PDF format. Okay. Or if you can share it before, that is also a very ideal situation. But I don't see that happen because many of the students are not prepared until the last moment. So I don't complain that. So that does happen. But if you are prepared, okay, some of the groups are prepared, way prepared before many days. So that is a very ideal situation, and that should be the way actually. But we are, since you are busy with different assignments, so I don't know. I'm not expecting that you'll provide the presentation before. So if you're providing, that's good. Yes, Satyavrata?
Sir, and what about that write-up, sir? How much time we get for that?
I think I have already given you some time. It was like 15th of May.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
So 15th of May is the last date for submission of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we don't have time actually.
Yes, sir. Yes, I got it, sir.
So we can type that write-up, right?
These things we have already discussed. You can type it, you can handwritten, whatever. Okay.
Okay.
But at the end, it should be a PDF format because the link will only accept the
How
PDF.
many pages you have to write?
Again, the same question is coming.
So we
Pages.
forgot, sir.
Yes, sir. Due to many of the assignments, sir, we are very confused about everything.
Yeah, I think this is a mistake from my side. I should have given it in written format rather than discussing in the class. Anyway, so since it's an innovative write-up, I asked you to limit to that like 3 to 5 pages. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So even some students are asking in terms of words. So you calculate. So how many words that is coming in one page. According to that, you calculate. So that is not so maybe some innovative write have some sketch or something. So if you have sketch, obviously the word will come down to less. Okay. So but overall it should be in the range of 3 to 5 pages. So don't make it long. So it would be again difficult for me to go through all these things. Okay.
Sir, how we will submit the PPT through Google Classroom?
I'll provide I'll provide a link.
Only one member of the group will submit. No?
Oh, yes. PPT, any of the member, any member. Okay. But innovative write-up is an individual. Okay. Clear? Anything?
No, sir. Clear, sir.
Oh.
So for the write-up, we can choose any topic.
I have already given you this the basket of topics. But besides that, if you are deciding to write something, but that should be very much related to some environmental problems. Okay, can be a local one, can be a national problem, can be an international problem, but it has to be very much related to an environmental topic. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Clear, students?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll take the attendance. Okay, Samriddhi,
Present, sir.
Satya,
Yes, sir.
Satyavrata,
Present, sir.
Saurav, Saurav, Sayak,
Present, sir.
Sayan.
Sir, he is
Written
present
is
in the
chat
chat
box.
box.
Okay, okay. Shivam,
Present, sir.
Shubham,
Present, sir.
Simran,
Present, sir.
Saubhagya,
Present, sir.
Subhramsu,
Present, sir.
Sudipta,
Present, sir.
Supriya,
Present, sir.
Swapnadeep,
Present, sir.
Utkarsh,
Present, sir.
Vaishnavi,
Present, sir.
Vinita, Vinita Ranjan, 765. Absent. Ajay,
Yes, sir.
Amish, Ankit,
Present, sir.
Ankit Senapati,
Present, sir.
Anurag,
Present, sir.
Anushka,
Present, sir.
Anushka, okay. Anvay,
Present, sir.
Arpit,
Present, sir.
Aryan,
Yes, sir.
Ashish,
Present, sir.
Ashutosh,
Present, sir.
Ayushi,
Present, sir.
Vibhu Kalyani,
Present, sir.
Chaman,
Present, sir.
Pritesh,
Present, sir.
Chetna,
Present, sir.
Chavi,
Present, sir.
Hers, Hers Dubey, absent. Hitesh, absent. Ritik, absent. Kartika,
Present, sir.
Kaustav,
Present, sir.
Kunal,
Present, sir.
Neil,
Present, sir.
Pallavi,
Present, sir.
Pratyush,
Present, sir.
Premchandra,
Present, sir.
Priyam, Priyam Ghoshal, Priyesh, Rana Joy,
Present, sir.
Raviraj,
Present, sir.
Rishav,
Present, sir.
Rishabh Prasad,
Present, sir.
Ritika,
Present, sir.
Samudranil,
Present, sir.
Sarabjit,
Present, sir.
Satvik, Satvik, Satyam, Shaumi,
Present, sir.
Sayani,
Present, sir.
Shashank,
Present, sir.
Shashi,
Present, sir.
Shubham,
Present, sir.
Shubham.
Present, sir.
Okay. Siddhant,
Present, sir.
Soham,
Present, sir.
Somendu, Sorin,
Present, sir.
Shubham, Shubham Das, 835. Shubhra,
Present, sir.
Suprasad,
Present, sir.
Supratim,
Present, sir.
Surachita,
Present, sir.
Susri,
Present, sir.
Suyash, Suyas, Parish,
Present, sir.
Utkal,
Present, sir.
Vivesh,
Present, sir.
Ritankar,
Present, sir.
Anchal,
Present, sir.
Aman,
Present, sir.
Dipanjan, Dipanjan, Abhijit,
Present, sir.
Others?
Present, sir.
Akash,
Present, sir.
Anant,
Present, sir.
Ananya Chaudhary,
Sir, written in a chat box.
860. Ananya Singh,
Present, sir.
Ankit,
Present, sir.
Anika,
Present, sir.
Arnav,
Present, sir.
Aryak,
Present, sir.
Aryaman,
Present, sir.
Prakhar,
Present, sir.
Aryan,
Present, sir.
Ashish,
Present, sir.
Vaishnavi, Vaishnavi, Bhavya.
Present, sir.
Okay, anyone joined later?
Sir, 798.
Sir, 765. I was having issues with my mic.
765, Vinita Ranjan. Okay.
Yes.
Sir, 746 present, sir. Saurabh.
746, Saurabh, yeah.
Sir, 798.
798.
Sir, 814.
814, Priyesh. Okay. Anyone else? Oh. Okay, all of you see the presentation? Friends, can you see the presentation?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is going to be the last unit. So solid waste and its management. So first, what is in solid waste? Then its types, then sources and characterization of wastes. Sources and characteristics of waste. Then we'll be discussing the toxic and hazardous waste. And finally, the solid waste management. So this is the final part of environmental science. So this is like if we are producing solid waste. So what are the management system we have? Developed countries as well as the countries like us. Okay. So first, to define with what are wastes. Okay. So waste is basically the rubbish, trash, refused items, garbages, junk, litter. Okay. So these are coming under the solid waste, or in general waste. Okay. Now, but if it has some not exactly scientific definition, but a definition, universal definition, that is from the Basel Convention. So that is called substances or objects which are disposed of or are intended to be disposed of or are required to be disposed of by the provision of law. So anything you want to dispose, okay, or intend to be disposed or required to be disposed by law, that is known as waste. Okay. So disposal means so any operation which may lead to resource recovery, recycling, reclamation, direct reuse, or alternative uses. Okay. So these are the official definition of waste that is according to the Basel Convention. Now, then we come to the sources of waste. Okay, so as you see these pictures, so the bins, the household items, the industrial waste, okay, commerce, and the waste coming for commercial activities and industrial activities. Is it important to define waste? So this is a question. Okay, it is definitely, and why it is important? Because it leads to the formulation of waste management system also from health point of view. Okay. Now, definition of waste is needed for management, policy development, environmental and human health point of view. Okay. So obviously, when you are defining waste, what kind of waste is that? What is the sources for it? Okay. Then according to that, we categorize different types of waste. Okay. So in the pictures, what you see, so these are old televisions not in use. So this comes under the e-waste, okay, which is a huge problem nowadays because of our digital life. Okay, so if you go to any household nowadays, you may find like 3-4 laptops or more than that. Similarly, the pads, tablets, the phones. Okay, the many items nowadays. Okay, and literally they have lifetime of 3 to 5 years. After that, they're completely junk. Okay. Now, where they should end? Okay. So that is the biggest problem nowadays in developed countries as well as developing nations like us. Now then comes the assessment of waste. Okay, so before we define a waste, so that put in different questions. Okay, so the first question is the substance or object reduced with the intention that it will be used or marketed, or is it being reused for the same purpose for which it is originally conceived? So you may have two answers, yes or no. If it's yes, so likely to be non-waste. Okay, so if there is something which defines all these things, and the answer is yes, then it is not on waste. If it's no, the next question comes. Okay. So is the substance or object a production residue? If yes, so likely to be waste. So similarly, there are many questions to be asked to the solid waste. So based on that, it would be defined as a waste product or a non-waste product. Okay. So this is a general assessment of waste that is followed by different developing nations, undeveloped nations, particularly developed nations. Okay. Now next is kinds of waste. Okay. So solid waste, so waste in solid forms, domestic, commercial and industrial waste, so that comes under the solid waste. The examples are plastics, styrofoam, containers, bottles, cans, papers, so anything solid that is coming from your household or any industry. Then liquid waste, so waste in liquid form, so examples are domestic washings, chemicals, oils, wastewater from ponds, manufacturing industries and other sources. Okay. So this is the waste classification in terms of their physical appearance. Now, the classification of waste according to their properties, okay, whether they are biodegradable and non-biodegradable. So if it's biodegradable, so the waste are paper, wood, fruits, and others. Non-biodegradable, so plastics, bottles, old machines, cans, all e-waste, okay, styrofoam containers, and anything. If the question is that if it's not biodegradable, that comes in the non-biodegradable category. If it's biodegradable, organic foods, paper, wood, fruits, these will come as biodegradable. Because this is an important question, because based on that, the segregation happens. Okay, so once the segregation happens, then it comes for the recycle or reuse or for the disposals. Now, also we can classify the waste according to the effects on human health and on the environment. So So in this category, we can classify based its toxicity. So we can define waste in hazardous waste or non-hazardous waste. So what are hazardous waste? So substances unsafe to use commercially, industrially, agriculturally, or economically, and have any of the following properties like ignitability, corrosivity, reactivity, and toxicity. Okay, so if a waste is coming under this category, so this is a hazardous waste. What is a non-hazardous waste? The substance is safe to use commercially, industrially, agriculturally, or economically, and do not have any of those properties mentioned above. Then these substances usually create disposal problems. Okay, so although we define that, but again, how to dispose them? Now, classification of according to their origin and type. So there are different types of waste: so municipal solid waste, biomedical waste, industrial waste, agriculture waste, fishery waste, radioactive waste, e-waste. Okay, so all these things are related to our day-to-day life, directly or indirectly. Okay. Now, what is the general the disposal system? Okay, from developed countries and developing countries or underdeveloped countries. Okay, so in developed countries, so waste generation after waste generation, so it goes for segregation at sources, then disposal as respective bins. Okay, so then comes the collection and transportation, then for the scientific treatment, and finally disposal of it. Okay, whereas the developing nations, so due to many constraints, so what happens? So waste generation, obviously, then unsegregated waste. Okay. So this is one of the biggest problem of our country as well as all these developing nations. Disposal at community bins. Okay. Collection and transportation. Again, there is a problem of collection and transportation, although these things are happening, but it is not on a regular basis, or the frequency of collection and transportation is not that great. And finally, it goes for disposal. And what kind of disposal we do? Basically, it goes for the landfill most of the time. So all the waste goes for the landfilling. So in that waste, you have all the toxic and hazardous materials. So they end up in environment and polluting our environment. So this is what is happening in our country or in developing nations. Whereas waste is very efficient in that matter. So almost what statistics says, almost 96% of waste materials are either reused, recycled, or they go for the disposal system in an inert form. That is important. So why that happens? Because of their waste management system. One of the biggest difference between the developed nations and the developing nations is the waste segregation. Because if you segregate the waste at the very first level, the first level means at home. Okay, so if it's a community, so at home. If it's an industry, so it should be done at the industry level. Okay, before it goes to the environment. So the segregation process almost is one of the important process of the solid waste management. And if you manage to do that job, like 80 to 90%, so almost 50% to 60% of your waste disposal system would be very accurate. Why is that? I will show you through one example, through one video. So I will show you a video where this is an example. This is a village in a very small town in Japan. So maybe the population is very, very low, but the way they segregate their waste is commendable. Almost everything they are producing, okay, at household level, so they are segregated at house level. Okay. Then they go for either recycling process or for the reuse purpose or for the disposal process. Okay. So I'll run a video. Okay, so have a look.
Okay, done. Oh, if you take care of Johnson, then I am money.
Just a minute. Just a minute. Okay, so we'll directly run that from. So all of you can see the screen now? Students?
Yes, sir. We can. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll just mute myself.
In this small Japanese town, residents take the concept of recycling very seriously.
アルミ缶、スチール缶、スプレー缶、ペットボトルのキャップ。
They separate their trash into a whopping 34 categories.
鏡、金属、電球、蛍光灯、バッグ、段ボール、新聞、折り込みチラシ、雑誌。
Welcome to Kamakatsu, Japan, the zero waste town.
きれいなプラはこの中にはめて、ちょっとこう餃子なんかしてこう油がいっぱいついてる分、お水をかけても落ちない分については
Hatsui Katayama diligently separates her waste according to Kamakatsu's rigorous zero waste program.
ペットボトルは蓋を取って、でここにこれいっぱい。
In the very beginning, so Kamikatsu was doing it open incineration, but people could see that's really hurting the environment, at the same time the health of the people. So zero waste was created.
Since the program began in 2003, 80% of the town's garbage gets recycled, reused, or composted. The rest goes to a landfill, but by 2020, the goal is to be 100% zero waste.
この牛乳のパックとか、これもみんな別個に持って行ってます。アルミがこっち。スチール缶が、スチールがこちらです。それでここがガラス類。分別も大変やけども、カンカンにしても全部中を洗って、処分せないといけないっていうのも大変やし、めんどくさいし、最初これがちょっと困られました。
It's been very tough in the way to gain the understanding of the people. Of course, when they had to separate garbage into 34 categories, which is massive, it's really like just tough.
Residents must wash, clean, sort, and then bring all of the materials to the city's recycling center, where monitors such as Kazuyuki Kiyohara make sure it's being done properly.
あと、分別も、みんながみんな完璧にできるわけではないので、いろんなものが混ざったものとかを、分けたりするのが結構大変ですね。
Signs on each of the bins tell consumers what their trash will be recycled into and how much that process can cost or earn the community.
からもそれが普通になって、今では自然に何も思わないでもちゃんと分別できるようになっております。
The town has what's known as a kuru-kuru shop, meaning circular, where residents can bring in and take used items for free. There's also a factory where local women make products out of discarded items.
We had lots of like old kimonos or the old clothes or these flags not used anymore. So we asked all these grannies who really had the skills for the sewing, and they made it into a craft like teddy bears or bags or what I'm wearing right now as well. It's made out of all these fish flags that we celebrate and then use it for the Children's Day.
Businesses all over Kamakatsu have incorporated ways to become zero waste.
We are cutting, by doing the recycling, the cost into 1/3 compared to when we actually burn everything. We are trying to focus more in how can we change our lifestyles to not to produce any waste. Even in this small town with only 1,700 people, everyone look at each other and then look after or take care of each other. So this kind of supporting system within the community really helped for the implementation of the zero waste.
Okay, so what did you learn from that video? 864, Anika.
Yes,
Or anyone. What did you learn? Aryaman, 869. Did anyone saw that video? See that video?
Yes, sir. We have seen that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So my question, what did you learn?
Sir, that producing zero waste for humans is possible and someone is doing it.
And how that is possible?
If everyone get together, then we can do 100% of recycle.
By recycling, reusing, and transforming different things into different things.
The thing is that it's not an easy job. If you see, there are 34 categories. If you have clearly watched that video.
Yes, 34.
34 categories from home.
So we didn't even knew that there are this type of categories. We only knew 3 of them.
Exactly. So what we are practicing at home, bio-waste, then non-biodegradable waste. So in our non-biodegradable waste, so e-waste, paper, glass, plastics, cans, everything goes into that. Okay. So even if we go for recycling for those things, so it will take off a job to separate those things. Some developed countries are doing it. Okay. So in countries like in Europe, particularly there are some recycling centers in UK and US. They are doing it, but it's really you have to put a lots of money on that. You have to build a facility for that. You have to hire people to separate those things. But if we segregate those things and household level, then it makes things easy. It makes life easy also. For and also the impact would be almost 0%. Almost. Okay. So the main important thing to learn from that video is the segregation part. So you might have noticed that the lady was talking about that wrapper. Okay, so maybe some food wrapper or something, food wrapper. So there are some sticky things. So if it's like any poultry items, so there are some sticky things on that the plastic. So she doesn't throw it away like that. Okay. So she cleaned it. She cleaned it with hot water to make it remove all this bio things. Then finally she put that in the plastic category. So it's difficult. It's not that it's a one-day job or 1 month job, because if you want to practice this type of things, it will take some time. So for example, in the video they mentioned they have been doing it since 2003, and their target is 2020. Okay, so if you see the time span, it's almost 17 to 15 years. Okay, to be at 100% level. Okay. So the target is to completely zero waste. Okay, what does that mean? There will be some waste. Definitely, there will be some waste. But whatever the waste they are generating, it should go for either recycling or reusing, or it should go to the environment in an inert state. Okay. It should not impact the environment. Okay, so some of the nations they are practicing. So for example, I can share my experience. So when I was in Germany, so there are some categorization, but the way this Japanese small town is doing it's beyond my imagination. Because when I was in Germany, it was at the household level they do it. They do the segregation process. For example, the glass, particularly the glass thing. So in glass, all the glasses doesn't go to the same bin. So you have white glass, you have brown glass, you have green glass, blue glass. So even color-wise, they separate it out. Similarly, in terms of paper waste, so newspaper waste is one category. Then writing paper waste is another category. The wrappers and the paper wrappers from product, they are also in one category. The cardboard papers are one category. So there are different types of segregations of waste at household level. Then finally, like frequency in every week, that maybe in Monday they will collect the bio waste, Tuesday they will collect all the glass waste, Wednesday they collect all the plastic waste. So they have also the collection time for each week. Okay. And sometimes they have also the community bins, okay, particularly for glasses. So you'll see the glass bins for an area where you can go and dispose your glasses also. So this is an important part of the solid waste management. So that is why the developed nations, yes.
Sir, why is it not followed in India?
There are many constraints for that. The first is the population. The second is the age. But look, if you go to the village, we are not that bad actually. If you go to the village, okay, so some of the villages are so neat and clean and so fresh, you'll be surprised to know that this is India. Okay. So it's not like that we are not doing it. We are doing it, but it's very in village level. Like now the villages are now polluted due to the lifestyle, because all the modern amenities and all these products, they're also entering the village. But if you go to a very remote area or remote village, you'll see they are also zero waste completely, because their living style is very, very simple. So they do not use any fancy stuff like we do in cities or big cities. So it's a question of awareness. It's a question of how not to impact of environment. So this kind of education should start from the school level. Okay? So we are discussing it now, but this should, and it is happening. If you see, even in school level, they have also introduced this environmental topic. Okay? So environmental science in school level, even the nursery students. If I remember, my daughter, when she was in standard 1 or nursery, they had one environmental topic. So it is now implemented. So what will happen? So they will learn the things from the very beginning, and they will implement when they are young. Okay, because it is a learning process and it will take some time. Maybe the things what we are doing now, it will only you see the change only after 15 or 20 years, not now. Although all the governments and municipality corporations are taking initiative to at least nowadays we see the bins, at least. Okay, they have now biodegradable, not biodegradable bins, blue bins and green bins. They're practicing, but it's not enough. Okay? It's not enough to create zero waste. Okay? So I would say the awareness, first thing. Second thing, the practice. So you have to really put lots of effort to really practice those things, and it should start from home. It should start from home. Then only we will see a change. So yeah. So this is I think, yeah, it will take some time. It will take some time to be really like having impacting on the environment very easy manner, I would say. Okay. But it will take some time. Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's go back to our presentation. Okay, so this is what the difference between a developed nation and developing nations. So, but still, there's a long way to go even for developed nations. Now, the hazardous waste, to define what type of how to define the types of hazardous waste. So, for example, 3 characteristics: the ignitability, corrosivity, and reactivity. Okay. So ignitable waste creates fires under certain conditions and are spontaneously combustible and have a flash point less than 60 degrees centigrade. So this is very, very dangerous. So it can happen in anywhere, at home or at any community level or at industrial level. So corrosive is the second properties of the hazardous waste. So that is, the corrosive waste are acids or bases, so that are capable of corroding metal containers such as strong tanks, drums, and barrels. Although this type of waste are very much limited to the industrial level as well as the research laboratories. So we don't use such corrosive material in our household. Maybe few of the cleaning agents are corrosive in nature, but we are also very careful in that. The reactivity, so reactive waste are unstable under normal conditions, so they can cause explosions, toxic fumes, gases, vapors when mixed with water. Again, this type of also very much limited to research laboratories and industry level. Because we have seen this kind of accidents due to hazardous waste, like whether the propane gas incident or the Chernobyl incident in Ukraine. But in household level, there are also some of the toxic elements we are we are using. If you remember, if you know this thermometer, okay, so inside that thermometer you have mercury, and for your information, mercury is a very highly toxic material. Okay. Now let's say even by accident, if you drop your thermometer, the glass one, and mercury is released, okay, on the floor, or if you see the mercury is, is on the floor, okay. Now how will you remove that mercury from the floor? Any idea? Do you know how to remove mercury if it's in the floor? It's difficult because mercury, when you put that, it forms a spear, okay? And they are very much immobile. Okay, so what is your feeling? How will you remove that mercury from the floor? Anyone?
No, sir.
Huh?
No, sir.
Okay, so here comes the basic chemistry. Okay, so here the application of chemistry comes. You know, the mercury forms amalgam with different types of metals. Yes, it's very reactive in nature with the metals. So what you do, so you take a copper wire, okay, bend it, okay, so make a circular form, okay, and just touch it. So once you touch it, the mercury will immediately react with the copper wire, and it will stick like iron stick to a magnet. So then you take that, then put that in a small plastic bottle, and then dispose in a proper way. So here the basic chemistry comes. If you know the basic chemistry, you can apply that to tackle the toxic materials that we are using at home. Okay. Right. Similarly, if you have acid and bases, just dilute them. Anyway. Then toxicity, the toxic waste are harmful and fatal when ingested or absorbed. So something like mercury that I was discussing, the lead, although lead is very much limited to batteries, but nowadays the batteries that we are using, they are lead free. Okay. So yeah, so also the major type of toxic hazardous materials are the heavy metals, the radioactive waste, the biomedical waste. Okay. Although these type of waste, it is not, we don't use that much in our household items. Heavy metals, very unlikely, but the patients, normally the cancer patients, actually, when they go for the chemotherapy, okay, this chemotherapy is basically the drug has some heavy metals. Okay, so they normally, when they take it, they kill the cancer cells. Okay, so particularly for the patients having are under medication with drug having heavy metals, so they have to be careful. But this type of toxic waste are very much limited at home. Besides few toxic metals like mercury and lead. But again, lead is we are not using that much nowadays. Then about the toxic elements. So here there are few slides describing about the toxicity of different metals. So there are a few examples. I'll just go through it directly. So the lead you have, then you have the cadmium, then you have arsenic, then you have then mercury. So these are the common toxic materials that may be used in household level. Okay. I'll just go through it quickly. Then there are the sources for municipal solid wastes. So there are different categorizations. So they should tell what type of solid waste is coming. For example, the food waste, rubbish, ashes, special waste. Okay. Commercial and institutional, they have also food waste, rubbish assets, demolition, construction waste. So some categorization is there. I'll just go through it quickly. Then composition of your municipal solid waste from different countries. So if you see in Europe, the organic waste, particularly the solid waste, the organic waste is 35%, paper is like 21%, plastic 10%, glass is 6%. So there are different types of statistics and data are there in order to classify different types of solid waste, okay, in country wise. Then comes the industrial waste. Then we have also the hazardous waste from the industry. Then there are also statistics and research data that what type of metals and heavy metals are there in different types of waste. For example, if you see in the paper cardboard, so you have arsenic, cadmium, chromium, strontium, mercury, manganese, lead. So there are different types of class, the data, statistics of different toxic elements in different types of waste. Okay, so I'll just go through it quickly. So different types of statistics and data are there. Okay, so then there are also toxicity characteristics label. So there are different codes for different contaminants. For example, for arsenic, it's D004. So if you see a bottle having some chemicals, but if you don't know what type of chemicals there, but if the code is written there, then you can know that what type of contaminants or what type of metal is inside that bottle. So this is very much common for the food industry, for the food industry, and also the chemical industry. They use different types of codes to categorize different types of contaminants. Then there are hazardous waste from different sources. Okay, so industry and what type of hazardous waste may come from that industry. For example, from chemical manufacturers, mainly the wastes are acids and base, spent solvents, reactive waste, wastewater containing organic constituents. If it's a painting industry, so heavy metal solution, wasting, solvents, so these type of hazardous waste come out. If it's in petroleum refining industry, so wastewater containing benzene and other hydrocarbons, okay, slurs. Okay, so these type of waste coming from different sources, okay, or different industries. If it's in leather product manufacturing, toluene and benzene are the common hazardous solvents that comes from this type of industry. Then we have a listing of hazardous waste. Okay, so depending on different types of categories. Okay. Then we have source and types of e-waste. Okay. So particularly from household, we have washing machines, dryers, refrigerators, irons, TV, monitors, toaster, coffee machines, air conditioners. So now even the PCs, laptops, these are not limited to offices nowadays. You can see that at home, not only one laptops or one mobiles. There are many laptops, many mobiles, and house level. From entertainment industry, the e-waste categorization like VCR, DVD, CD players. Okay. VCR maybe you are not used to, so it is a 90s thing. I don't know. Do you know VCR, friends? No, I think you are not born that time. So I was talking about in 90s. So if you want to run a video, so you need this VCR player. So they are the big cassettes. Okay. So nowadays they are completely obsolete. You can find them. Then there is a statistics here like. The high-income countries like the developed countries, so what is their waste generation per capita per year. So, for example, the high income countries are producing like 0.2 to 0.5 tons per capita per year. So, the low income countries, the like very underdeveloped countries, are very small countries. So, they are generating like 0.1 to 0.6 tons per capita per year. So, if you see the upper middle income or the middle income countries, so we come in that category either in the upper middle income, I would say nowadays. So we are producing like 0.3 to 0.8 tons per capita per year. So the waste generation, if you compare in different country wise, so we are producing more in comparison to other the high income countries as well as the low income countries. So the developing nations actually are producing more waste in comparison to other countries. So the countries like us, we, China, Brazil, yeah, so we are producing more waste. So that's why the debate is going on at world level. Obviously, we are the manufacturing hub nowadays, like all the Asian countries like Indonesia and Malaysia. So, but anyway, but the steps are taken at every level. So maybe we see changes in future in 10, 15 years that we may reduce the generation of waste per capita per year. So, and this can only happen by the intervention of local governments and also the policies from government. Okay, so this is about the solid waste and its management. Although there are many things can be discussed in this topic, but I think for us we can limit these things to here. Okay. Okay, students. So today I'm not going to take any quiz for this particular topic, so we can stop it here. If possible, since we have a next class, open class, so maybe I can run a couple of quizzes to cover up for those students who missed a few of the quizzes. Okay.
Okay, sir. So can you repeat what you said?
I said that I'm not going to take any quiz today. Rather, I will take some quizzes. Okay, it can be one or two or three, depending upon the defaulters. So ideally, I will take one, maximum two quizzes next week. One would be from this topic, which is for all. The other one would be a defaulter one, and the defaulter one being the combination of all the topics. Okay. So there will be some students who have already missed some quizzes for many reasons. So just to cover up those things. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So the next class next week there will be no teaching. So only a couple of quizzes will be there. Okay. And also by that time you also get your the grouping and the timing for the presentation that is going to